Welcome, fantabulous souls, to Psychically Speaking. I'm Psychic Lisa Ann, your host on this transformative journey of body, mind, and spirit. Join me, a psychic medium and healer, as we explore the wonders of life, share experiences, and grow together. Whether you're new to spirituality, an old soul, an empath, or a seasoned professional, this podcast has something special just for you. So let's dive in and embark on a journey of learning, healing, and personal growth together. I am so excited to have our guest on today, Michelle King. She is an intuition and income mentor, and we have a lot to discuss. So let's go on. Let's get in here and bring her on. Hello, Michelle. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you so much. I am fantastic. I'm super excited to be here and honored to be able to share and engage with your amazing community. So, thank you again for having me.
Thank you. And thanks for making the time for us today. So I have to say, in all full disclosure, you and I worked together on you put together a project that I absolutely loved. And some of our listeners may remember it was called Creating Personal Magic. It was a global event that you did in 2021. It was an absolutely awesome 4-day event. And I just was so thrilled to be a part of that. So that is really how I got to know you and what you're all about. And I just want to let listeners know. So your specialty, you call yourself an intuition and income mentor for heart-centered leaders, spiritual entrepreneurs, but those who are specifically passionate about their mission, their vision, their purpose. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I have been working with spiritual entrepreneurs and heart centered leaders for over a decade. And often I've seen this common pattern, and it's, relative to what I experience on a personal level, but also in a professional realm. And it's being super passionate about your mission, vision, and purpose and wanting to, expand your soul's work in the world, but having a thing with money. And so there's this imbalance of giving and receiving, and being in this, energy of wanting to do good, wanting to, inspire change and transform other people's lives in the best way possible, right? But underneath it all, there's this imbalance of lack and scarcity, and coming from, our perceived experiences of money that are often rooted in paradigms that we're being called to, outgrow and release. And we do that through expanded levels of consciousness. So that's what I'm passionate about, is helping these spiritual entrepreneurs show up in big ways that are true and authentic and genuine and really aligned and embodied in the fullest expression of the source of money, of love, power, truth, wisdom, and wealth. And I think when we fully embrace that and understand it from a metaphysical standpoint, it allows us to create that in our reality.
And I love that because you and I have talked about this a lot. I work with so many people who have a money block, right? And there's almost like this guilt, right? That if I'm running a business, especially in the holistic field, and I am at all focused on money, there's something like wrong with me. And I tell people all the time, but don't you understand? If you can't afford to keep your doors opened, if you can't afford to get your business up and running, you can't be there to help anybody. So people start moving in the direction of they want to live their life's purpose and they want to help people. And they get so far and then they hit this money block. Or I've seen people who they have such a money block that they're working like 29 different jobs to bring in income and they have nothing left. There's nothing left in their tank to give the people that they want to be helping. So I just think this is such an important topic. Can you just tell us a little bit about your background and how you came up with what you call the wealth expansion method. And I just love this. So, can you just tell us just briefly a little bit about your background and what led you to create the wealth expansion method?
Beautiful question. Thank you. I'll try to be brief with this because really this is like my life's journey and my life path that actually led me to develop the wealth expansion method. So it was really, my spiritual awakening. It was 2015, 2016, really, when my life turned upside down. And I made the really hard choice to leave the person I loved and this marriage of 15 years. And it wasn't that, I didn't love him anymore, but I, needed to make this choice. I had this undeniable call. And that's really where the friction was in our dynamic was I wanted to continue with my business. And, he didn't consider it a real position or job, right? So underneath that, there are many layers, right? He was a beautiful reflection of my inner critic. And for me, that just like catalyzed this major transformation in my spiritual awakening. And it just disrupted my financial stability. Also, even in business, I was navigating some shifts in that too. So it activated my intuition, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm having all these synchronicities, what's going on? And it just led me into this deep dive into metaphysics, and I wanted to understand, how was this working? Like, was it just happening, or am I part of this? Like, am I co-creating something here? And wow, if I have the ability to co-create, then oh my goodness, I can work with my intuition to guide me, to support me, to inspire me and lead me. And, through that experience, I discovered this formula. And it's how to integrate our human experience so that we can leverage our reality, like the fears and insecurities that show up, and say, hey, how is this showing up for me? And how is this activating my metaphysical power? And so I got to learn and integrate and maneuver through these life transitions myself to rebuild my identity in alignment with my higher mind, which is stable, which is secure, which is whole and wealthy. And so through that experience and then the ripple effect I got to see in the clients I was working with, I was like, oh my goodness, this stuff really works. And I'm a person who needs a lot of validation. So I'm like using my intuition all along in, mundane and magical ways, like even through the Creating Personal Magic Global event. So, it is through mastery, what I call this ability to expand in consciousness, bring awareness to what we're experiencing in our life, to then be able to create personal magic. I call it magicking, partnering with the field of absolute potential to create inspired outcomes that we know are in alignment with our highest good, that get us out of scarcity, out of lack, out of insecurity, and in the knowing and the embodiment of our true divine creative power. And in that, we expand, just like what you were saying before, no longer coming from this unstable, fearful, rooted position of the lower mind, the self, or human nature, and expanded, embracing the human experience, but actually in our soul and source levels of consciousness that is stable, is solid.
Right. And I think that's so important because I know, when I went through my financial crises in life, we'll call them, and I have, I always joke around, I'm getting up there in age now, so I have lots of philosophies. But one of the big shifts for me was I was always looking outside of myself. I was always asking myself every time there was something that was going wrong, every time there was some kind of disaster. And, the financial ones were always like the most impactful because then they snowballed into all the other areas of life. But this can go for any kind of, trauma that's going on. Anytime something was happening, I was always finding myself going, what am I doing
Mhm,
wrong?
mhm.
Right. I was always looking like, why is this happening to me? And I was never focusing on what is the goal? What do I want my ultimate outcome to be? And I realized much later on, after I was going through all these things, that it's, I have that same ability inside of me that everyone else has. I was trapped in this mentality for a very long time of this us and them kind of thing, right? Like they're doing it right, I'm doing it wrong. They have some kind of secret knowledge that I do not have access to. And throughout my own journey, I realized that that is not true. We all have it inside of us. We all have the same energy and the same ability to tap into. We just need to learn how to do it. And that's why I love what you do, And the one other thing that I want to say about that, that I think is so important, is I think when you're constantly coming from that place of you think someone else has an ability or access to something that you don't, you're starting it from the negative, right? And that's why I think people need people like you. One of the things that I love that you say is you absolutely can transform your money reality. And, again, we're focusing on money only because I think this is one of the biggest blocks I see a lot with people in the holistic field, that they want to have their own business and, they want to expand out. This seems to be one of the biggest blocks. So, do you, and I already know the answer to this, but do you really feel that everybody can transform their money reality?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I carried for the longest time, like I was sharing before, when I transitioned, took this leap of faith and created this new identity. I always carried, the guilt, the shame, which actually was reflected for me through my relationship with money. So then for the first time, I started to, develop debt and go into debt. And that was kind of the representation of the baggage I was carrying, right? And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be carrying this for the rest of my life. It's kind of like, oh, this is like a disease, I'm just going to always have it. How do I manage it? And then I, realized the power of our intention, and how when we align with our intuition, that those are like directives from our higher mind saying, this is your path, these are the stepping stones. You may not see the whole picture yet, but here, follow these steps. Otherwise, it's like, if you were taking a cross country trip from, the East Coast to the West Coast, your GPS doesn't give you everything all at once. It gives you turn by turn so you don't get overwhelmed. And I learned, oh my gosh.
That is so important. Yeah, and I have to interrupt you there because that is so important. So I feel like so many people, they think that, first of all, like everyone's intuitive, right? But so many people think that because they don't have the entire picture, that they can't listen to the little bits and pieces. So I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And what I love about the wealth expansion method, intuition is the guide, right? So you're always working with your intuition as your number one supporter, your number one lover, protector, you name it, right? Your ally. And so what begins to develop is trust within yourself. And when you start to trust yourself about what you make money and other people and your life circumstances, what happens? Right? Power, confidence, clarity, inspiration. You gain access to this universal intelligence, like you said, that's inherent in all of us. And that's because, and this has been studied with the Heart Math Institute, that's because you're growing and developing heart coherence, right? And you're coming from the heart intelligence, which is intuition, to guide you. But there's a way to actually develop that. And that's what I get into in my teachings and coachings. But that just opens you up to the inspired ideas, the synergy, the people, the places, and circumstances that are actually in alignment with your vision. And so that's why it is important to know what you want and gain clarity on that.
And don't you think that the synchronicities, like they happen to everybody? Like I always tell people, everybody is intuitive. It's just not everybody pays attention to being intuitive, right? So, doing the psychic work, people are always, will say, oh, I don't believe in being psychic. I'm like, you don't believe in listening to yourself? Like, being psychic, intuitive, whatever you want to call it, we all have it. It's just something people have really worked hard to kind of fine tune and pay attention to. So I always joke around like, people go, "Oh, if you're psychic, when did you know you have a gift?" I'm like, "It's not a gift. Like intuition's not a gift. The gift is learning how to pay attention to it, right?" So I love that. And the other thing that I like that you talk about a lot is really understanding like what your relationship with money is, that really matters, because your relationship with money can change the way that you align with your experiences. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like how do you know what your relationship with money is, other than, and like, as we're talking, I hear like people listening to this going, my relationship with money is like, it's non-existent, right? Like I don't have enough, right? It was kind of like my old dating life, a disaster, right?
It sucks. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I know. This is what I love. See, I love working with clients who are like, "Oh no, there's no way. Like, I don't get it.
Right.
Like, tell me, because there's so much potential." And I'm just like so excited because I'm like, "Oh, just you wait." Because it's so easy. This shift, it will require you to grow and evolve, but it's all energy, right? So it's really your relationship with it that literally and figuratively matters. So if you feel like money doesn't matter, then don't be surprised if you don't see it materialize on your bank account, right? But if you start to partner with money, open up a two-way conversation with money like you would if you were to, be dating somebody, or maybe you have a new pet. I love talking about pets as examples because they speak energy, right? And so money is the same. And when, you see like a dog, let's say you have a dog walking across the street, but you have your own dog, you have a different connection there, a bond and a relationship that is different because that energy is coming from you and what you make that dog mean in your life, the significance of it. And you can do the same thing with money, because money doesn't deem you worthy or unworthy. Money doesn't say you can or can't have it. It's available to all, right? If it's all energy. So there's a lot of potential when we come to embrace that and actually say, "Oh, I have a choice here." And that helps you integrate authentic power and really claim spiritual and financial sovereignty. That is knowing who you are and knowing how to resource this universal intelligence to, bring your inspired ideas and wealth into your reality. Because ultimately, God, source, the universe, however anyone here, defines that, wants us to live a healthy, wealthy, the fullest version of our true potential here in this lifetime. And so I believe absolutely everybody has access to that. And I just teach them how to, access, engage, and direct that energy to realize their true wealth potential.
Right. It's interesting because over the years of owning Spirit Quest and the Healing Center, sometimes people would come and say, "Oh, I'd like to teach a class out of here, but I don't charge. I do love donations or whatever." And I would tell people all the time, "Listen, I get that, but this is a business and we charge here because two reasons. One, well, three reasons. One, money is energy and it's a positive thing, not a negative thing. Two, when you are exchanging something, right? You're putting something out there and you're not asking for something in receipt of it. Everyone else that's doing that, you're now demeaning the work that they're doing. And three, I used to tell people, you know what? If you really are in a place in your life where you don't need the money, that's great. Then here's what we're going to do. At the end of the class, you're going to give me the name of the charity. And the money that I would be paying you to teach the class, we will make as a donation, right? What a great way to take that energy of money and move it forward. Right? So I think that relationship and that money mindset is so important, right? Now, I know again for me, because I had such a negative viewpoint of money. And I love what you were just talking about with the dog, right? With the pets, because that's something everybody can relate to. If I grew up with dogs, I love dogs. My dog's sleeping right here, right now. So if you're someone that grew up with dogs and you love dogs and you're a dog person and you see a dog, you feel that sense of like, oh, look at that cute little dog. If you were someone that was attacked by a dog when you're young and you're walking down the street and you see a dog approaching you, it's going to bring up fear, right? So it could be the same exact dog, but two people have completely different reactions. And I feel like that's exactly how money is, right? So someone that maybe grew up in a place of lack or, saw examples of people using money in a bad way would think, oh, it's the money that made the person bad, right? So once we understand our relationship with money, how do we really know when we're ready? Like, how do we know when we're in that place where we're ready to expand our wealth consciousness?
Mm. I have discovered there are three gateways and really tell signs to know that you are on the threshold of expanding wealth consciousness. And it often shows up, even just the wondering of that is a sign, but really, if you are in a position, and most people wouldn't see it this way, probably, and it's often misunderstood. And that's why I think these are so important, is that you are experiencing kind of a financial wake up call. So you're experiencing repeat patterns of lack, loss, or really longing for financial freedom. Then that is like the inner conflict that's like, it doesn't feel good. It can be painful the more we put it off. And no matter like what we do, whether we're, visualizing, thinking positive, or budgeting, we're trying to do all the things, but nothing seems to be working. Then really what's happening is it's like, oh, I have to go within to find the solution here. It's not outside of me. And so that is the first kind of tell sign that you are on the threshold of expanding wealth consciousness. And this is to be celebrated, right? Like, yay, I'm growing, I'm evolving these outgrown paradigms that it's better to give than receive, or that it's noble to struggle, or it's, materialistic to be spiritually and financially thriving. Like,
Right. How
no,
many times are we told money can't buy happiness? So I
yeah,
think we misinterpret that to be like, oh, if you're doing something that you enjoy that came from money or you had to pay for, like there's something wrong with you. Right.
right.
And I love what you
You
said
earn it,
because,
right?
I unfortunately had several wake up calls when it came to money because I wasn't getting the message the first few times. But I share this story with people all the time because it was in the moment of like my absolute worst days when the economy had crashed and like my whole world was coming down and I had a cancer scare and I was laying in bed crying my eyes out trying to figure out what was I doing wrong? What was I doing wrong? And I share this story with people all the time because I remember sitting there and thinking to myself, I am not a perfect person, but there are murderers that are having better luck than I'm having right now, right? I was just in this pity party place of complete confusion, lack, crisis, everything just kind of falling down around me. And I swear, I literally heard in my head, what does your dream life look like? Your problem is you keep focusing on the wrong thing. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I don't even know what's going to happen to me next month. Like, how am I supposed to think about my dream life? And I walked around very angry that week. Like I still remember it like it was yesterday, thinking to myself, how am I supposed to think about my dream life? But then a couple of days later, I just kind of calmed down and I was like, what would my dream life look like? And I just thought about one thing that I would, love to change. And then I thought about a second thing and a third thing. And then all of a sudden, this magical thing started happening. I started having the thought for the first time ever, why couldn't I have those things? Why can't I want that for my life? And I started to allow myself to get that picture bigger and bigger. Where would I want to live? What would my daily life look like? What would I be doing if I wasn't worried about the stress of money or focusing from that place of lack? And it just all like started this snowball effect. And then I went, the best question I ever asked myself was, what would I need to do to make that happen? And I think that's a really, really important part of all of this is like you have to be willing to then make the changes, right? So what can you add to that piece of the puzzle? So now they shift into this wealth consciousness and they have that, I call it my epiphany moment, right? And then what is the next step? Yeah.
Yeah. So what's beautiful about what you shared, it is very similar to clients' journey and my own personal journey of, the feeling the overwhelm. But what I love about what you shared were your questions, because they are directing your mind. And that's how we partner with our intuition. So asking those powerful questions will lead to your mind, finding the solution for you. So I love that you brought that up, because that's very much a part of the work that we do together. And the other part, when you're ready to take action, the people, places, and circumstances will show up for you. And it's about being receptive to it. And so as we listen to those insights, to those drop-ins of curiosity and those powerful questions, then acknowledge those moments and notice how you're feeling in that state, because you are in receptive mode, right? And that's how we want to be when we're welcoming money, not going out. And this is one thing I was going to bring up maybe a little bit later, but being able to make it safe for your vision to be embodied, and really feeling into that reality becoming real, and noticing what thoughts, sensations coming up without judging it, is going to help you take the next steps to actualize it, right? Because if we're still holding on to fear of, oh my gosh, what if this actually works and I do become financially independent, free, and I'm happy, like we would think, oh yeah, everything would be great. But the reality is a lot of us do feel guilt, shame, and fear around that. So being able to bring consciousness to that in, a compassionate way is going to help you expand even more, and make that journey less turbulent, even though it will expand you and stretch you.
Yeah, because I think too, even, I remember as I started coming out of that mindset of lack, and as I started, I was joking around, I'm the queen of manifestation, right? So as I started manifesting this like dream life, right? I moved, I rented this dream house, I bought my dream Corvette, I met my husband. As I started doing this, it was really interesting because you didn't always get that, like that a girl that you thought you'd get from people, right? You didn't always get people going, wow, that's amazing. What did you do? You'd get this kickback from people who were still in the mindset of lack that would be like, oh, you're a healer and you drive a Corvette? And I'd be like, what does that have to do with it? You know what I mean? So it wasn't even like, now you change your mindset, but then you're in this earth plane where people are still in that lack of mindset. So I think, I know we're going to have to do a part two, a part three, but I really wanted to have you on because we are in that 8 year, we are in that year of abundance, we are in this year of expansion, this year of personal power. So I know I'm going to have you back on and we're going to do a part two, but just for the people that are listening today that are thinking to themselves, all right, you know what? I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm feeling this conversation. This is like you're talking to me. How can people work with you?
Sure. So people can find me on my website, michellekingcoaching.com. Facebook, I'm very active there, and they can just send me a direct message, say, hey, I'm interested in working with you, or join, my email list, and find out about upcoming programs. I actually have one coming out in February So if people are really wanting to learn the wealth expansion method, and balance the spiritual and the financial wealth, then this would be the perfect opportunity. It's a group dynamic, it's 12 weeks. And you'll get to have real time, interaction with me so that you can apply whatever current circumstances you're navigating and get feedback right away. But ultimately, that's to help you go from, lack and scarcity and to ultimately thriving. And so much of that is about learning how to align with your intuition and embody your vision, and then, make it safe to be realized in the real world. And, really what's fun about it too is you get to co-create opportunities and synchronicities and get, that feedback that helps you with momentum and
I
validation
think
and
that
so
is
on.
such an important piece. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
such an
yeah.
important piece. And just, as we move into wrapping up a little bit, what for people that are listening, a lot of times when I do readings for people, I'll always say to them, if you hear nothing else I say to you in this
Yeah.
reading, I just need you
Aw.
to remember this, right? So
Love
what's
that.
what's one of the most important thing, what's one thing that if someone's listening today and they're just, taking it all in, what's the one thing that you really want them to know?
Mm. Oh, this is like making me emotional. This really comes from the heart and my own personal experiences of knowing what it's like to be so afraid, in massive transition and loss and, this, opportunity for really growth and transformation. But it is to know that you have everything you need within you and that you are 1000% safe, loved, guided, and supported. And the people who you start to now notice coming into your life right now, pay attention to that. See what feels right and true for you and start to trust yourself, with your choices and your actions. And, again, know that you can 1000% alter your reality when you start to realize who you really are and learn how to actively engage it and direct that spiritual energy and transform your reality. So,
And I
I,
think it's so important because, when you're moving yourself into a better direction, you inspire so many other people to do that, right? You can empower people that way. So it's just so important. And can I just ask you, what do you love most about what you do?
ooh, client transformations. And just like what you were saying, it's this ripple effect. I mean, to work with spiritual entrepreneurs and heart-centered leaders who are on a mission, they just have this undeniable knowing that they were born for greatness. And I'm not just saying like, oh, they're thinking that and like convincing themselves. They innately feel this undeniable knowing that they are here for a reason and don't want money to get in the way of that, right? I'm here to help you because when you really step into realizing how powerful you are, how worthy you are, and that, your message matters, you create a ripple effect. And I'm here to help you like expand your soul's work in the world. So, yeah.
I love that. And my last question, I promise, because I know
It's okay.
we
Keep it going. I can
used
talk
a
about this
lot of
all
your time today.
day.
But my last question, so when I was thinking about doing the podcast, I
Yeah.
kept thinking, it's psychically speaking with Lisa Ann, because life isn't always, rainbows and butterflies, right?
Love
Because
that.
have always been one of those people, like I live in the real world, right? I am all about peace, love, and light and positivity. But every now and again, the carpet gets pulled out from under you and your life is
Mhm.
just falling and exploding. And what keeps you going during
Mhm.
those challenging times?
Yeah, it's really the wealth expansion method. And I'm not just saying that, but it's
Right.
true. It's like being able to discipline the mind, to align with my higher self, and to every time fear creeps in or insecurity in these challenges, I get to reaffirm the truth. I get to reaffirm I know exactly what I need to know when I need to know it. And that helps me integrate my human and spiritual nature and just continue to expand and grow and evolve. But it's really this position of knowing how to align within myself. And that's why this wealth expansion method has been so profound for me and for the clients that I work with,
Right.
and really, how I meet transformation. And if we're living here on earth, we're always going to be growing, evolving, and changing. So for me, the wealth expansion method, there's nothing more empowering, life enhancing, life affirming, and really inspiring, right? Because when we
Right.
are aligned in our truth, then we create a ripple effect in the collective as well.
And I think that mindset is so important. I have an ongoing joke that I really, and I don't know, maybe this is something for another meeting with us, another
Sure.
episode. But I always say, like, I really don't believe in failure. I've
Mm.
had a lot
Me
of
too.
them, but I
Yeah.
don't believe in them. And I don't even use that word anymore. When I look back at things that just like blew up my world, I now refer to them as experiences I no longer need to have because, and I think this is so important because I never want anybody to think like that's going through a horrible time, right? When your whole world is imploding, it's hard when people are saying, "Oh, well, you're going to get so much value from this." Right? When you're in the moment, you're like,
Yes,
"No, I'm
right.
not." Right? But when I look back, I realize those moments were even more significant than some of my moments that I would celebrate, right? Like they were so a part of this fabric that has created my life and gotten me to where I am now. Doesn't mean I ever want to experience them again. It's
Yeah.
like been there, done that, got the growth message, and now I'm moving on,
Yeah.
right? So, final thought, any final thought that you would like to share?
I would just like to, piggyback, I guess, on what you're saying. And, I think oftentimes, the clientele I work with are really invested in the inner work, and we can sometimes get stuck in that. And that can be also limiting when we don't acknowledge, hey, I am an expert in my field, or I am, ready to fully lead, or I am ready to be a six-figure successful business owner, whatever that is. Like, I don't have to do more work. I'm good. And to be able to liberate yourself from that, what happens is you grow in acceptance and understanding, compassion, this amazing spiritual energy that we all get to experience through the challenges and the losses and the hardships and so forth. But they're definitely not failures, because what they're doing is just expanding us and helping us realize who we really are. And again, tapping into that heart energy of possibility, of potential, of conscious love, of authentic power and truth.
And what do you think? I'm just going to totally put you on the spot now, but someone
Good.
that's listening that's really feeling like they're there, right? Like I'm there and I really what's the one question, only because I know when I was sitting there, I mean, like I said before, I can still see it, feel it, hear it, smell it. That moment that I was laying there crying my eyes out and I just heard that, what does your dream life look like, right? And that was a question that I needed to ask myself that just totally changed my entire life. What is like one question that someone that's listening to this, that they're thinking, I really need to make some changes. I need to take that next step. What is a question they should ask themselves?
What would spirit want you to do? What would your highest expression of yourself want you to do? And trust that.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for making time for us today. I am so thrilled. I've been talking about
Yes.
having you on forever. So thanks for putting up with me over the last year of like, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So thank you. You are listening, watching Michelle King. You can find her at michellekingcoaching.com. She's also on Facebook, and it is Michelle King, King, coaching.com. So thank you so much. We will definitely be chatting with you again because I know there's so much more we could talk about on this topic, but thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much for having me, and my best to you and your community. Thank you for listening and engaging today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. If you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a friend and hit subscribe. For more about my free live weekly happy hour via Zoom, my work, or visiting my Body, Mind, Spirit spa and gift shop in historic downtown Southern Pines, North Carolina, visit spiritquestnc.com. Remember, life isn't always rainbows and butterflies, but each and every day you have the power to be fantabulous. Embrace that power, let your inner light shine. Until next time, stay empowered and keep embracing life's magic.